Senator Vance, we're here in Detroit at this Turning Point event. I get three numbers on my mind right now. They are 270, 51, and 218. Okay. Obviously, that's the White House, the Senate majority, and the House majority. How are we going to do it?
Look, I think we're in a good spot. But especially in the Senate side and the presidency, we really have to win a few critical states. I think at the top of the list are Michigan and Pennsylvania, both Senate races, really winnable Senate races in both states. But obviously, I think those are two paths to the presidency states for Donald Trump. So I think we do really well in Pennsylvania, really well in Michigan. We'll have the Senate and the presidency. The House is a different beast, right? I mean, typically House voters will vote for Congress, whoever they vote for president. So I really think this is the thing where we just have to count on Donald Trump's coattails on the one hand, and then on the other hand, try to make those coattails as long and as powerful as possible. We're sitting here right now, this is mid-June of 2024. I'd much rather be us than them. I do worry a little bit about complacency, right? People are feeling like we're ahead, and the way to actually finish this thing is to run through the tape, chase as many ballots, harvest as many ballots legally as we can. But look, man, we're in a really good spot. People are pissed off. People don't like Joe Biden. They like Donald Trump. That's where you want to be. Okay, so it feels a lot like the 2016 election. It does feel like states like in the Sun Belt down there, like Georgia, Arizona, they seem to be moving back. We see the polls, big leads for Trump in those places. Yeah. The race is going to come down to, like you said, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. How do you get to those working class voters and flip them and make sure that they don't vote for Biden again this time? I think a couple of things going on here, Matt. So first of all, you have to remember these are very, very patriotic Americans. They want to make things in their own country, with their own communities, with American workers, right? One of the big mistakes that we made as a country, bipartisan, is we let China make way too much of our stuff. We let Mexico make way too much of our stuff. And if you look at a lot of ways what Biden has done on the green energy stuff, they've been doubling down on a set of very stupid policies, because where are all the minerals mined for the green energy economy? In China. Where are a lot of the components made? In China. So Biden has given us an opportunity here where he's really invested in a globalist economy in the name of green energy, set to the side, of course, the fact that China is the dirtiest economy in the world. Nobody wants to talk about that. But it's been really bad for manufacturing workers in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin. So we have to hammer as much as possible. We got to make our own stuff. We've got to do it with American workers, with American hands. I think the second thing that we have to hit pretty hard, Matt, is remember, if you look at who serves, who fights and dies in American wars, it is disproportionately middle-class people from the industrial Midwest. Like, you go to a Marine Corps base when I served, and you will see a ton of Texas and a ton of Ohio license plates, right? It became like a joke. Everybody in the Marine Corps is either from Texas or from Ohio, right? That means that those people, those sort of patriotic Americans, they're sending their kids to the United States Marine Corps, to the United States Army. They don't want to send those kids to fight for Volodymyr Zelensky. They want, if we send American boys and girls to war, they want it to be for America's interests. And I think Trump, better than anybody in American politics today, can go and make the argument that we are for peace when we need to, and we're only going to fight a war when we have to. But when we do, we're going to punch hard and we're going to win. We're not doing these sort of global wars of democracy, which again is something the Biden administration has really doubled down on. I think Trump would take us in a different direction, but we got to make that pitch to people that if you want your kid to go and fight in some stupid globalist war, vote for Joe Biden. If you want to send American Marines and soldiers to fight only when we have to, vote for Donald Trump.
It reminds me of back in the 2016 election. The moment I thought Donald Trump won the election in 2016 was way back in the Republican primary. There was this debate in South Carolina, and Jeb Bush is on the stage, right? Like, they wheeled in George Bush into the audience, right? Like, and Donald Trump ripped them apart for Iraq, right? Like, all the failures in Iraq. And the Republican establishment thought, oh my gosh, wow, you can't have this on the stage in a Republican debate, but the crowd cheered, right? Like, they were with Trump. They thought the Iraq war was a failure. Similar type of a thing we're seeing play out right now with the globalists and the establishment in Ukraine. You heard Trump here in his speech last night where he was out there talking about Zelensky. He says Zelensky's the greatest salesman in world history, right? Like, because of the fact that he keeps getting the U.S. to give him all this money. But the fact is that people want to see the war end, and Trump said that he would end it before he even takes office. And I think he's right. So what do you think about that?
Look, I think he's exactly right. You have a lot of really crazy European leaders, some of whom just got punished in recent elections, got penalized in these recent elections. And look, they're saying we need to send NATO ground troops to Ukraine. That is insane. There is no compelling American interest that would justify NATO getting directly involved in this conflict. And you need somebody to say, enough with the craziness, enough with the bullshit. We're not sending NATO troops unless there's a direct threat to NATO, which, look, this war is not a good thing, but it is not a direct threat to NATO, and we need a statesman. The crazy thing about Trump and the reaction to him, Matt, is there's this idea that statesmanship is like sounding like a total robot and never saying anything controversial, but in your actual conduct, doing everything you can to start a stupid war. I actually think Trump is a much better model of statesmanship, which is he's tough, he's funny, he sometimes says things unfiltered, but when it comes to actual decision making, he's much more careful and cautious than any person currently representing the country.
So another big issue out there, of course, that I do think connects with these Rust Belt voters that we're talking about, working class folks, is immigration.
Yes,
obviously, we
absolutely.
have a wide open border. Joe Biden ripped up all of Donald Trump's executive actions in his first week as president, opened the border, we got millions and millions more people here. Talk to us about that. What is the effect of all these people that are here because Biden's president? What are we going to do about it if Trump wins?
Yeah, look, it's a huge thing, right? And it's a huge thing in multiple different dimensions. So we know about the fentanyl problem. We basically turned the Mexican drug cartels into the world's biggest terrorist and criminal organization. And what are they doing? They're profiting off the deaths of people in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin. That's a big, big problem. The second problem is we know that low-wage immigration, they compete with the jobs of American workers who are typically those who are sort of more in the middle, right? They're not competing for rich people for their jobs. They're competing with middle-class people, working-class people for their jobs. So you import 20 million people into this country, it actually harms the wages of the people they're competing against. So you're already struggling in Biden's economy. You're already making less because of inflation. Now we're going to bring in 20 million people to compete for your job with you. It's totally ridiculous. And oh, by the way, while we're competing for your job, we're going to help kill your kid with the fentanyl that we're bringing in, and we're helping the cartels traffic into your community. It's a total joke, and it has to stop. The thing that the Democrats have really doubled down on is this idea that if you want a border, if you don't think that you should have 20 million illegal aliens in your country, you're a racist, and people just don't buy it. They're sick of being called dirty names because they just want to live in a safe and stable community. And Matt, the immigration issue is that there are some sleeper elements to this that people don't appreciate, that I think Trump sort of gets in his instinctual way, but most political consultants don't. Hospital wait times have gone through the roof. Why have they gone through the roof? Because illegal immigrants primarily use emergency rooms in hospitals to get access to hospital services. Okay, that's not okay. Schools, right? I talk to people in rural school districts all the time, Matt, where they're dealing with kids who are struggling in various ways. Their parents lost a job. You've got the drug epidemic. Then all of a sudden, 8 illegal immigrants show up in their community. Nobody speaks Spanish in their school. The illegal aliens don't speak English, and now they have to figure out how to give those kids a good education at the same time while they're servicing a lot of kids who are already struggling, who have the legal right to be here. So this is just crazy. There are all of these ways in which the immigration problem is putting stresses. And the final thing I got to say here, if you can't afford a home because home prices are through the roof, you can thank the fact that Biden has let in 20 million people who are competing with you for residences and houses. That puts upward pressure on all the stuff that middle class people need, and houses are at the very top.
And so, Senator, the last thing I would ask you here is, obviously, President Trump has yet to make a decision on a running mate. You're definitely somebody who is in consideration on that regard. Your name has been out there for a while on this. Talk to us about what you would say if he asked you to do it. Is it something you would want to do? What do you think he needs in a running mate? Talk to us about that.
Well, look, I won't pretend to give him advice. It's his decision. I'm glad it's his decision because there's a lot of talented people he could pick from. I mean, look, if he asked me, of course I'd be interested in the job, Matt. I think he's he's the president that we need at this moment in time, and I want to help him however I can. The only thing that I'd say is whether it's in the Senate, the House, or the vice presidency, we have to remember on the 3 big issues Trump ran on. I think the 3 big issues Trump won on, which is trade, immigration, and military adventures overseas, the establishment GOP was stabbing him in the back, right? constantly stabbing in the back. They did not like the issues that Trump ran on. Just like you talk about with that debate with Jeb Bush, they didn't like that Trump had tapped into something that people didn't like about the old guard of the Republican Party. Donald Trump has got to have people in all levels of government who are going to support the agenda that works for people, not try to stab them in the back. Whether I'm in the Senate, some other role, I'm certainly going to be part of that vanguard.